Yes, sir. Recording is started, sir.
Excellent. Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you doing all?
Fine, thank you.
Very good, very good. And I wanted this session to be a little interactive. This session is about you guys, okay? It's not about innovation, design thinking, or about my PPTs, okay? This session is about you. You are at the center of this session. I mean, like, why are we delivering this session is for you guys, actually, okay? Remember that. And let me see in case if I could share my screen. And before that, I would like to actually thank VIIT and Rector Dr. Madhusudan Rao Garu and Appaji Garu, actually Srinivas Appaji Garu introduced me to Dr. Rao sir, and then he gave me this opportunity. And I really thank you guys to share some of my experiences with the design thinking. I wouldn't call myself as a doctor or a professor or an innovator. I'm just like you folks, but only thing is I'm extremely curious about the things around me, and I'm an explorer, I'm an experimenter, I call myself. I do a lot of experimentation, and I'm very deeply curious about human behavior and psychology, especially when they are in groups. Okay, so why they behave the way they behave sometimes intrigues me. With that, I'll share my screen. Please let me know when you are able to see my screen.
Not yet. Sir, you can.
Let me know.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
It is visible now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's Monday morning. You guys must have fully charged up. I'm glad actually this is the first half of the session so that people don't go to sleep post lunch. Okay. I'm glad actually I'm in the first half of the session. So let me actually run a small a small video. Probably let me actually run this through you and then see. Maybe relevant, may not be relevant sometimes, but it keeps you actually get curious about how design affects the things, right? I hope you are able to hear the sound.
The sound, we are able to get it, sir.
Well, actually, I just wanted to show you how the design can impact how a design can impact the human behavior, right? A simple change, simple tweaks in the design can largely influence the human behavior sometimes. So today's session, we're talking about the main topic is about design thinking and innovation. And these are pretty interestingly related. And of course, these two are interrelated to your next session, which is entrepreneurship as well, because entrepreneurship involves a little bit of an innovation and design thinking in practice, so that you will be in a position to create great products and services, right? And I thought, actually, let me start with a video, so that you guys are mostly in the connected world, right? So maybe you will be more interested in watching a video rather than me talking, right? So I thought I started with that. So with that, I'll just tell a little bit about myself, because you should know from whom you are hearing from, at least in case if you like it, probably you can recollect me later. So this is me, actually. I have close to 20 plus years of experience. After my engineering, I started my career as a structural designer, and then I spent my first 5 years of my life designing large industrial structures, pretty much like a structural architect. And then we used to actually simulate some of these large industrial structures within a German package called CASA. And I ended up learning programming, right? And then I entered into this IT world, and I joined Oracle in the year 2000. And then, I get pretty easily bored. Once in every 4 years, I change my company or my role. So, so that is one thing. And then I actually moved to United States to do the consulting. I was a software or a solution architect there back in mid 2000, and then I was there for 5 years, and I came back to India to lead some of the SaaS customers from Oracle from Europe and Middle East. And I did my engineering, and then I did my MBA from IIM Kozhikode. So in short, this is about me, and I'm a design thinking and tech enthusiast. I'm currently working as a senior director for the cloud consulting services. I'm heading this division out of India, and I'm based out of Hyderabad. Okay, and I'm also an Agile coach, Agile transformation practitioner as well. I work and I partnered with some of those companies where I actually deliver the coaching as well. And over the weekends, I do deliver design thinking and innovation 2-credit course to IMT. This is IMT Hyderabad. Okay, so currently I'm already taking that 2-credit course there. So I'm extremely passionate about teaching also. Enough about me. Let's jump on to the main topic. Okay, so at least you know who I am. Okay, so I really like this quote. I'll start with this thing, because it's not about, literacy means if you are reading and writing. Nowadays, if you cannot unlearn and relearn and learn, that's going to be a problem in this current time. So this is a quote by Alvin, and I really like this. The reason being, with Google and all these Alexa coming in, the data is not a problem. Okay, information is not a problem. You ask, and your Alexa will tell you what you need, right? Earlier days, when you used to remember the things, and those people who look to be very intelligent, who used to give the information and facts, right? Now, gone are those days. So what do you do with that information, and how you actually, how you use that information for your application is more important. So that involves a little bit of an unlearning as well as relearning, right? And sometimes imagination is more important than knowledge, especially in the context of design thinking and innovation. A lot of imagination is required, right? So that is one thing. And innovation is very simple, right? I mean, seeing everybody has seen, right? Thinking what nobody has thought, right? I mean, you are seeing at the regular things and the the services and the products and people around you, and you think, okay, what if, kind of a thing, right? So the kind of thinking that really requires for you to think beyond what everybody is thinking, that actually gives you a little bit of seeds of innovation. What is innovation really is? I mean, like, people and companies talk a lot about innovation nowadays. Why are they so much after the innovation? Because there is something in it, right? There must be, the people will not be talking about innovation without there is nothing about it in it for them, right? There is a concept called WIFM. What's in it for me? So there is something for them. Absolutely. And in my opinion, I would like to show a small definition of this is that innovation is practical implementation of ideas that result in the introduction of new. Pay close attention to that new, right? Introduction of new goods or services and improvement in offering goods, improvement in offering goods and services. So if you are making some change to the existing things and introducing something new that can bring value back to the society or to the organizations or to the people, that's actually, I call it as innovation. But let's see in case how exactly somebody animated this in a very real subtle way. Let's go back to another video. It only takes 1.5 minutes. I'll not take much time there. Okay, just pay close attention.
What is innovation? Life is made up of dots. Many, in fact most people, believe that the dots they see every day are all the dots there are. So life goes along according to these known dots. Decisions and solutions are based on these commonly known dots, as well as many conclusions too. Some companies build their entire businesses on these known dots. This we know as the status quo, business as usual. Then one day, someone comes along and sees one or more dots beyond the commonly agreed upon dots. Dots that others missed, dots that are ignored, dots that others have long since forgotten about. Some like these new dots and celebrate this new discovery, liking how things currently are and comfortable with everyday dots. Some protest these new dots. Some even claim they are invalid, or worse, are imaginary dots that don't even exist. Yet, it's these new dots that potentially change everything. What is the source of these new dots? Notions, unexpected connections, ideas, possibilities, and imagination. Fire was one of these dots. So was the wheel, and the bicycle, and the automobile, and the computer, as well as the internet, the smartphone, and the tablet. In fact, many of today's common dots were at one time uncommon, newly introduced dots. So what is innovation? Those other dots, the ones others miss, and having the certainty to know that the dots you see are not only valid, but necessary if the world is to move forward.
So what dot you are going to invent is going to matter, right? Today, I would like you to pay, after this session, close attention around you, the things around you, the processes and the people and the services around you, and see in case if that can be bettered, right? And is there anything that you can innovate? So I would like to give you a new pair of spectacles, innovation spectacles, if you may call it. And you used to look around these things in the regular way, but after this session, hey, can this be any better? Can this be designed in a different way? Why is this way, and why are people actually behaving the way they are behaving in the regular way, right? I mean, can we actually impact by changing something, right? All those things should come into your mind. I'll be very successful once this session is over if I actually bring new insight and change in your perspective towards things and the services and the products and goods around you, and then see, is there anything that I can do about it? Is there anything that I can experiment around about it, right? That's the main intent of this session. Remember that. And remember this, do you see these images actually now? Literally, your mobile phone disrupted the DSLR. I completely understand. The professional photographers still use DSLR. That is for a specific reason, right? But largely the crowd who were not using DSLRs are actually started using their mobile phones, and like that, I mean, I used to use that TomTom in US when I was driving there, right? On the mounting on my dashboard, and then I still remember, like, I used to carry, in fact, 2 GPS for some strange reasons. If one is wrong, then other, so I used to get confused on that one. So anyway, back those days, jokes apart. But now you have a single one, right? Yeah, the Google Map on your mobile phone is your GPS, pretty much. And what is happening? Netflix completely disrupted Blockbuster. Blockbuster used to, in 2006, I think, 2005, 2006 time, we used to have those Blockbuster stores where you have all these CDs stacked, and then DVDs and all, and people used to go there and rent. Right now, I mean, it's obsolete, completely obsolete. Like, because the internet speeds are so high, you end up streaming everything, right? Nowadays, everybody is streaming. So probably that is prehistoric, right? I mean, putting the DVD and watching the movie, I don't think not many people will be doing. I still have the cassette player, though. That's a different thing. So I'm one of those, I fall in love with those old things. Actually, I still cannot get rid of those things. So now the thing is, what is happening is these people literally disrupted the existing status quo by bringing some radical products into picture, right? I mean, if you are not innovating, okay, somebody else will come and innovate and makes you obsolete. Very simple, very simple. If you are thinking that my company is running great, I don't need to innovate, then it's not going to stay static in the business world. It's actually going to impact, and somebody on the down the street, he started some startup, and you don't pay attention to him because he's a small guy, but slowly he improves his product and service in such a way that he'll end up disrupting you. We'll look at that. Actually, there is a whole theory called disruptive innovation, and Professor Clayton Christensen is the father of the disruptive innovation, and he has written a great book called Innovator's Dilemma. I really love that book. I mean, if you guys are really curious about innovation, you should study that. I strongly suggest that you study that. But you get the point, right? I mean, some of the innovations that can actually disrupt the status quo. Who knows? Actually, the things that we are using currently and so proud of will be obsolete pretty soon. You never know. Maybe something else will come. And another thing I wanted to let you guys know, you guys are students right now from engineering college or from MBA or from MCA. Some of the jobs that you are seeing right now on the job portals, and maybe in a decade, you will be applying for the jobs that are not existing on the job portals at this point of time. Remember that. That's pretty scary. Okay. Which means that you are not preparing yourself for the jobs that haven't been invented yet. How do you go about it? I mean, it is like, Srini, are you saying that, am I going to apply for a job in 2032 for which I'm not actually graduated on, or actually I'm not trained on? Yes, it is going to happen. And believe it or not, it is going to be a fact. And it has already been established. So, which means that probably you need some more skills than the traditional analytical and critical and lateral thinking skills, which I am a big fan of lateral thinking, by the way. I'm a big fan of Edward de Bono. This is he's a great guy. I mean, like, the way he there is a whole lot of literature on that, but I know you guys are students and you don't have that much bandwidth, but reading is something that you must do. Okay, if you really want to get better at something. And what is that skill? What is that skill, Srini? Which skill is that which makes me prepare for the future? Right? What is that skill? So that skill is probably, in one way or other, is creative problem solving skill. creative problem solving skill. And why do you think that creative problem solving skill is going to be the thing down the line? Because majority of the algorithmic issues will be handed over to robots anyway, right? Bots or robots, they do the better job than human beings, okay? Because once those are streamlined, they do much better job, much better efficiency. But what they can do is they don't exhibit emotion, they don't understand emotion. And what they can do is that showing that empathy that as a human being you show towards the others. Probably people say that they even understand human feelings. That's again, it's a kind of an algorithmic driven, because sometimes human behavior is so complex that you can't put it into an algorithm, because it is pretty complex, because mind is pretty complex. So still we haven't reached that stage that we have created another human mind. Okay, yeah, largely it is going to drive on the algorithmic facts. Okay, long story short, let's actually move on. Why innovation is important? Because if you don't innovate, you will be obsolete. And when I say innovation in the context of student, what is that you should care about innovation is that the companies that you're applying for example, if those companies are innovative companies, they expect you to be innovative, okay? Because they wanted their people to be innovative, because some of those companies, not all companies are innovative, okay? So say for example, Apple, and if you take Target, for example, if you take Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola, or all these companies are design-centric companies. When I say design-centric companies, for example, IKEA. Recently, IKEA is in India, so you can relate to it. So IKEA is into selling furniture, but also they study a lot on how human beings behave with their the way the layout is deliberately put it in such a way, in a maze-like thing, so that people actually go through those mazes and then experience the kind of the furniture layout, and then buy some of those furnitures, right? So innovation is really, really important, and innovation actually is very important if you want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, in the second half of the session, I think in the post lunch, you have entrepreneurship session, and innovation is the backbone of entrepreneurship, if you may call it. But if you, Srini, I know innovation is important. I know innovation is so crucial for entrepreneurship. But how do I innovate, right? The question is about how do I innovate? Like, all good, all theory is good, but how do I do it actually, right? That is where the design thinking comes into picture. Okay, design thinking helps you to innovate better. That is how I link the design thinking with innovation. Okay, it's a kind of a process. Probably design thinking, some people call it as old wine in the new bottle. It's been there from almost 1960s, if I'm not wrong, actually. And then it was not evangelized in such a way, the way it is evangelized right now. Okay, so yeah, it's been there. It's not that design thinking is not there. And by the way, design thinking is quite intuitive and feels quite natural if you do it right. Okay, we'll go to that. So some of the types of the innovation you may see that is like sustaining innovation. What do you mean by sustaining? Incremental innovation, in the sense like you make better products sold for more money to the attractive customers, right? Small improvements like feature add-ons. For example, once you have this smartphone, maybe you will make that camera better. You make some of those features better, but it is sustaining innovation on the same path of that curve. You are actually incrementally innovating, and that is called sustaining innovation. And a breakthrough innovation is like it will open up a new consumer category for the business, change changes to an existing product that they had a significant impact on the business. It has a significant impact on the business. Yeah, so there is a concept called blue ocean strategy, where you create a new markets for your product and service. That's a whole lot of a different topic altogether. But breakthrough innovation is if you are having an existing product or services, if you change it in a way, it has a significant impact on the business. That's the breakthrough innovation. But very, very interesting one, and I'm extremely interested in this particular innovation, is called disruptive innovation. Okay, coined by the godfather of disruptive innovation, called Professor Clayton Christensen. I'm a big fan of him. And new products and services that enter at the bottom of the market over time move up and displace the established market leaders. That's the disruptive innovation. How they do it, let's see. Actually, I will give some examples. I'll also walk you through how this disruptive innovation happens as well. I'll take a couple of minutes on that because it is worth paying attention to. Okay, so there are 3 qualities of disruptive innovation. Frankly, the new product or service enters at the bottom of an established market. If you have a market and you are the leader of your industry, and there enters a new product or a service which is like little bit rookie, like not a very polished version, not even comparable to the existing product, but they are actually sold to the non-consumers of your product. The people who are not consuming your product or service, they will be selling to. Okay, and they are not seen as a threat by the established market leaders, because the value chain and the supply chain networks of the established product are so well aligned that those systems will not scale up for this kind of a new product or a service which is actually entering at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, so these are the qualities of the disruptive innovation, and I'll give you a small example on this one. So if you have a established, the top line, what I'm referring to is an established, or this one, let me take this one, this line. The progress due to incremental and radical innovation is happening on this line. And here our startup guy starts with some new product or service, which is not being seen as a threat by this guy, because in no way it is compared, because the performance, the features they are offering is nowhere nearer to it. And it is seen as some sort of non-threat to them. And slowly they will also do the incremental and radical innovations, at which point of time they meet the performance demands of the existing market, at which point this the established player will be thrown out. That is how the disruption happens. Let me give you an example. Say, for example, I don't know if it is a good example or not, but I'll try. Say, for example, if you have Microsoft Excel, you all must be aware of Microsoft Excel, right? Say this one is a Microsoft Excel, for example. I'm just giving an example so that you can relate to. Microsoft Excel it's a very powerful tool. You can actually do data modeling, even AI/ML things also you can do recently with a lot of small data modeling things you can do. But majority of the people who are using Excel actually use probably 10 to 20% of the actual potential of Excel. All they do is at the max, they go to the pivots and they do the consolidation of the data and all the stuff in the regular IT world. But slowly here it enters like Google Sheets. Okay, Google Sheets is what? You don't require any installation. If you have a Gmail, you have a Google Sheet, right? Pretty much. It is a very, very non-comparable. It's a kind of a grid kind of a thing where you can enter the data, and slowly the performance of the Google Sheets improves in such a way that at one point of time, people will find, you know what, actually, I'm fine with Google Sheets, for the purpose of my computation, whatever the features that Google Sheets is offering, I'm fine with that. I don't really need Excel for that. Okay, they reach at this point of time. I'm just giving an example. The way the products and services, they start as a rookie products, not really very polished and not really very sophisticated, but slowly they improve their performance in such a way that they meet the performance demand of the high-end market. Okay. At that point of time, the toppling will happen, right? I mean, I'm just giving an example. There are a number of other examples. There is a steel mills in US. There is a case study on this, but let's not, because in the interest of time, we can't go to all the case studies here. We'll stick to our time. Okay, so what is innovator's dilemma? Okay, this is the book actually I was referring to by Clayton Christensen. See, basically what happens in the short-term versus long-term vision. For the leaders at the top, it makes more sense for them in the short term to do the sustaining innovation, because you have already an existing customer base, and they are already buying from you, and you are actually trying to make them happy by giving more features to them. Okay, that makes perfect sense in the short term, because they are already your customers. They are willing to pay more money to you if you give them more features, right? Very simple, right? But in the long term, that's going to actually do a lot of damage, because you are not focusing on the customers who are not potential customers who are not consuming your products and services. How do you go about it? That is where the disruptive innovation comes into picture. For example, P&G, Procter & Gamble, they're known for this. They actually spin off at another organization which will actually disrupt their products within the same organization. We call it as self-cannibalization, right? I mean, typically the MBA guys, they must be knowing how they self-cannibalize. So instead of letting others to disrupt you, you allow within your organization to disrupt your own products so that a new innovation comes into picture. So it's a great book. If you really are curious about it, you should get hold of it and read it. Okay. And you know what, actually, Innovator's DNA, there is, I want most of you guys to be innovators down the line, because India surely needs innovators, no doubt about it. Our education system has been created largely towards the industrial sector, where you actually create more towards compliance and following the rules. Nothing wrong with that, but you really need to be think out of the box and see what the best I can do something that can have a large impact on the society around you. Or can you be on your own as an entrepreneur rather than waiting for applying for some job? You know, can you be a self-employer, or can you actually launch a business? So you know, back in those days, right? You know, if I say that after my engineering, if I say that I'm starting my own business, probably people might have laughed at me because the culture was like that. But now I'm glad that people like you are actually having courage to launch your own business, courage to start your own innovative idea to innovative ideas to bring to reality. I'm sure, you know, the biggest advantage you have a lot of time. Okay. You have a lot of time. You still can fail and learn from it, and then again iterate and then improvise it. So the whole lot of experimentation actually geared towards that fast failure, fail forward, learn from it, and pivot from it, right? And that is the innovator's DNA. So what is that innovator's DNA? The DNA of the innovator's DNA, I mean, it's like a kind of a theme here. Basically, the courage to innovate. You should have the courage to innovate. Why courage? Why courage? Why they use the word courage? Because inevitably, when you are trying to innovate, you'll end up failures. You'll end up failures. Okay, take it for granted, because that is how. If you are not failing, as someone said, you are not really innovating. Sometimes, because the very zone of innovation and this design thinking is a kind of a going back to the mystery and create something new, right? Going back to the mystery and creating something new. That means that you should have the courage to fail and still move forward, right? So you should challenge the status quo. You should have the ability to take risks. These are some of the qualities of the DNA, are the qualities of the innovator, if you may call it. And what are the behavioral skills? They have questioning, they have observing, they have networking, they have experimenting. These are the behavioral skills. And cognitive skills, they actually synthesize all these skills, and we call it as associational skills. Okay, they actually bring all these skills together and come up with an innovative idea. Okay, so I'm just giving a map or the kind of skills that you might require if you really want to be an innovator, right? So these are this is how the territory looks like in case if you really indulge into this kind of innovation as your main thing. Okay, let's get into this, right? So finally, our main topic: what is design thinking really? Okay, what is design thinking really? I know about analytical thinking, I know about critical thinking and lateral thinking. What is this design thinking, and where exactly it is going to be used? So, you know, you can read it. I mean, I'm just thinking like, how can I simplify it? Say, for example, if you are so used to the regular way of doing the things, right? You will have a plan, you will assign the resources, you will execute that plan for a typical goal. Okay, that is how your regular business plan or regular in the analytical world it looks like. But when it comes to the design thinking, we call it as abductive logic actually. So the way it works is, you don't know exactly, you don't know your goal. Sometimes you don't know your goal. The reason being, it is quite ambiguous, quite uncertain, right? And why is that so? The design thinking is a creative and systematic approach to problem solving by placing the user at the center of the experience. Okay, let me get this right. Whenever you are designing any service or product, if you are the creator of the service or the product, the way it looks is you are going to put your product or the service at the center of the universe. And you think about, how can I make my service better? How can I, if I add this feature, will it be good? If I add this service, will it be more appealing to my target customers? So you always think or put your product or service at the center of your universe because you are designing it. But when it comes to the design thinking, the center of the universe changes, completely changes, because the center of the universe is going to be your actual user. Okay, how does this product I'm defining or designing is going to have an impact on the user for which I am designing, and how do they feel about that product? How do they actually interact with that product or service is largely going to define my customer delight end of the day, right? That is where the design thinking is if you ask me to put it in one single word, I can say it's a creative problem solving that can bring some value to the organization and the society, right? It's a kind of a non-linear approach. It's a non-linear approach. We'll look at that non-linearity and what are the various phases of this design thinking. So if you look at it, Srini, I'm convinced that innovation is important. I get it. And how do I innovate is using design thinking. Even the design thinking definition looks great, but how does it actually look like in the real world, or when you actually indulge into the design thinking for the purpose of innovation? How does this entire process looks like? We'll have a look at that. Okay. So he's Tim Brown. He says that design thinking, by the way, his IDEO is a great design thinking institute based out of West Coast, USA, and they are known for inventing very brilliant products and services. You should go and check it out online. for sure. And Tim Brown, actually, I think he has written a great book called Change by Design. Okay, Change by Design. It's a great, fantastic book. And what he says is, design thinking is a human-centered approach. Remember this word, human-centered? What do you mean by human-centered? You are putting human at the center, not your product or service. Okay, nobody cares about your service if you are not actually going to wow your end users. Okay, that's very, very important. And he says that it's a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of the people, possibilities of the technology, requirements for business success. What do we, I mean, like this definition looks so abstract. Can I actually have more explanation on that? Let's see how exactly it looks like. So what is desirability? Say, for example, if you are designing a product or a service, really people desire that? I mean, like, is there any demand for it? Will people want it? That's the first question you should ask, right? And what is the second one? Okay, the second one is it technically feasible? Okay, can you actually technically deliver it? Okay, that is the feasibility aspect of it. And thirdly, is it financially viable? Okay, so the desirability, feasibility, and the viability at the center, at the intersection of these circles lies the design thinking. Because if there is so much, you figured out that there is a demand for certain thing, but if it is not technically feasible, you may not be able to bring it to to reality. Yeah, I mean, technically feasible, there is a demand, but there is is it financially viable? Can you make money with it? Can you make money with it? That is viability, right? And if you design something great, but people want it, technically feasible, if you are not able to make money with it, it's not sustainable, right? It is not sustainable. So you got to pay close attention to all the three aspects of the design thinking. Do you have any questions? I will take a pause here and then see in case I'm talking, but I just wanted to also make sure if you have any questions. So there is some chat out here. Yeah. Yep. Systematic. I completely agree, David and Srini. Design thinking is like a systematic innovation. Systematic innovation is, I think David is, very highly known and famous for systematic innovation. Probably in his next topic, he's going to throw some light on that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Srinivas.
Yeah.
Mr. Srinivas, this is Dr. Rao.
Sure.
Yeah. So you are talking about, okay, desirability is required and similarly technically feasible and viable. Maybe there are some instances where cost will not come into picture. It may not be viable, but it is a specific, it is directly helping the specific requirement. A simple, for example, if I take a rocket, it's too costly. Whatever materials we are using in that, they are too costly, but still we have to produce. Do you agree or not, sir?
But for what? Why are you even doing
specific application like space and military like that? So it may not be viable, it may not be coming to picture, but they are technically feasible. Requirement may come into picture.
Absolutely. So, but it also incurs some money.
Of course, of course. So, it may be costly. So, yet we have to
yes, correct. So let me run through the same example. Okay. So say for example, if you are building the rocket and it's going to, I mean, the kind of innovation that you are doing, maybe you wanted to have a kind of a rocket which is specifically like Elon Musk, for example. Elon Musk is a commercial. SpaceX is it comes under commercial, so he has an intent of it. But what Sir is referring to is for the military and scientific exploration kind of a thing, right? Where the kind of design I'm doing, it is technically feasible, but it actually costs me somewhere around $2 trillion, for
Yeah.
example.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is closely the valuation of Apple, for example, right now. More than that, Apple has more than that. But what I'm trying to say is, it is feasible. People want it. It is required, but it costs you $2 trillion. Would the government give you that much money? That's my question.
No. Actually, let us say when you're
I
designing
agree.
a suit,
I completely
government has to
agree
give
where you
because
are coming from.
government has
Absolutely.
government has to give, because to achieve a specific thing which is not there in the nation or somewhere, government has to support. Yeah, like
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
I'm closely associated with our ISRO people, all that. I know
Yeah,
how much
right.
that thing. Okay, but it's
No.
not
I
it's not a
completely
common
agree.
product. I agree that it's not a common product. I agree that.
Correct.
It's specific. It is
And
specific.
also,
Hmm.
correct. And also, sir, just to continue on the same discussion, frugal innovation, we call it, right? Frugal innovation.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
In the frugal innovation, what you say is that, okay, let me actually design it with whatever that is available within that budget. How do you actually go about it? Instead of requesting for a hi-fi material, is there any alternative? Is there any better alternative that I can actually replace that costly material, like the way Elon Musk did, right? He completely redesigned it. Unlike NASA, though he recruited a bunch of scientists from there, but still he went to Russia. He actually saw that, the kind of the technology they are using is pretty expensive. So how can he actually cut down those costs so that he can actually make sure that it's the first commercial space exploration, right?
Yes, sir.
Probably in the way that he did was, I really like Elon Musk's idea. I always like his concept called first principles. He goes back to the first principles and then he redesigns. For example, electronic vehicles have been there. It's not something new before Tesla, right? But why it became so popular is because of the radical improvement in the performance of the battery. Frankly speaking, I don't know, Srini sir, in our discussion, maybe later half of this session, we will actually debate on that one, because I know that you are into electronic vehicle EV battery segment and you are very pioneer in that, but we'll come back to that. But what I am trying to say is that instead of reusing the existing technology, he went back to the first principles. He redesigned battery from ground up, and then he started doing the things in a better way. Okay, let me come back to, sir, do you have any questions, sir? Rector sir?
Yeah, I would like to add a quick point on the Dr. Rao, Rector sir. Yeah, usually in the innovation, at the innovation side, first they don't talk about the cost, but it has to be feasible. I agree, but at the latter point, they will go and optimize it. And what are the alternatives? Can we reduce the cost, or maybe government has more money, or a private funding like Elon Musk, somebody can trust, they can pitch more money, government pitch more money than a private person. There's a
Absolutely,
different, it's entirely a good topic, interesting topic, but it needs more time. So we can discuss at the end.
Sure. Definitely. I think Shankar is calling. Let me, yeah, so I completely agree with you. And these are like innovation labs, we call, right? Innovation labs and incubation centers where people actually come up with some sort of an innovation and then actually take it to the commercialization, right? You need to, not only the innovation needs to be commercialized, right? I mean, like, that's the reason invention is different from innovation, right? So, yeah. So I'll give some examples of design thinking. I'll take this first example as Embrace. Okay, Embrace is actually a project where I'll give you the background, the backdrop of this case study. The infant mortality rate in Nepal is pretty high. The reason being, the premature babies born in this hilly region they're not getting actually that neonatal care that is very much required very soon after they are born, right? So the Stanford was, Stanford school, Stanford University, they recruited a bunch of designers, and then they said, okay, let's actually design this incubator for Nepal issue, right? It's a social issue. So traditional method or the traditional thought process would be the traditional thought process would have been just strip down all the bells and whistles of the existing modern neonatal incubator and then try to reduce the cost. Like, okay, I don't need this, I'll use a cheaper material. I will actually try to reduce the cost of this this incubator, because technically what you are trying to do is you are looking at the stripped down version of what you are seeing on the left hand side traditionally. That is the thought process generally you take, right? I mean, like, how can I reduce the cost? How can I actually make it affordable? You're not thinking from the end user perspective. So then a team of engineers, they traveled to Nepal. Okay, they traveled to Nepal, and actually they lived there for a while. They lived there with the families who are delivering the babies, and then they were actually looking at the situations, life situations. And what they figured out is, first of all, in the rural area of Nepal, they don't even have the electricity. They don't even have the electricity. Even if you design the stripped down version of this, you will not be able to make that viable for that particular use case. So they came up with a radical idea, radical design, something called Embrace, a kind of a small pouch kind of a thing where you have a hot pack in it. You put that hot pack, a kind of a specially made material. They actually put it in the hot water. They put it in the hot water and again put it back into that sack and then wrap the kid around it, so that the temperature of that the entire pouch, the temperature around the kid is maintained at somewhere around normal room temperature, or at least keep them warm enough for at least 4 hours. That doesn't require electricity. That doesn't require any sort of big scientific innovation kind of a thing. This is so most of the times people think when you say design thinking and innovation, it has got to do with some sort of a technology. Not really. Frankly speaking, it doesn't have to. Innovation and design thinking doesn't have to be only technology driven. It can be a switch in the mindset, and also putting this baby at the center and thinking from that perspective will change the entire design. So basically, this movement is still going on. If you go type Embrace and Nepal, you will get this website also, and they saved around 350,000 lives already, and they are planning to save 1 million babies by 2026, which is a great example of how a design thinking process, if you employ, how that empathy, when you go to the actual place of the problem, you will actually in a position to understand what they are going through, what are the situations around them. You feel that we call it as immersion in the design thinking. Okay, in the design thinking we call it as immersion, observation, and all these things will come into the empathy phase of the design thinking. Okay, so how am I doing on the timing? 11:06. Okay, I still have 24 minutes. Let me run quickly through this. And this is a good kitchen in Denmark. Okay, the story behind this goes like this. Okay, majority of the elderly population in Denmark, around more than 120,000 people, are on government-sponsored meals. Okay, government-sponsored meals, which means that the municipality or the local authorities, where they actually provide the food for these elderly people. Okay, and the culture of the Denmark is such that they feel bad about the fact that depending on the government for their food and for their thing is they don't take it as in a very positive way. So the malnutrition among the elderly population has gone up, and they were not eating well. They are not eating well, and so in a typical scenario, what would you do? You would change the menu. Simply, you would change the menu and say problem is fixed, right? But if you actually there is a design company went there and then they interviewed people within the kitchen, also the elderly people. They lived with elderly people. They actually traveled the way with food trucks, how the food is getting delivered, how they are eating, everything they observed as a part of the design thinking process. So what they found was, first of all, the people in the kitchen are really not inspired. They are also a little bit bored with their job. Nobody values their job, and it's a kind of a taken care kind of. They're not very inspired. The other part of the deal is it's a pretty boring menu kind of a thing, right? It's a pretty boring menu kind of a thing where only just a few words about the dish are mentioned and nothing, no picture, nothing. And then they're also actually eating alone. They're eating alone, and they feel very, deprived of that. So let's actually take a quick look at how this entire thing turns it out. Are you able to see my screen still? The case study, you are able to? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so rethinking subsidized meals for elderly at the Good Kitchen. Okay, so problem: malnutrition of the elderly. Specific context: Denmark municipality subsidized meal for 125,000 senior citizens rely on government meals. Design contribution: design thinking tools develop deep insight and customer and employee reframe the possibilities. Let's see how exactly. So we need menu, right? We need menu, and then we actually see this. This is the menu, and then
we're still seeing your main slide, Good Kitchen.
Oh,
even though you click that link.
Okay. Maybe I think it is not getting refreshed. So okay. I'll keep it short in the interest of the time. What they have done was they have actually redesigned everything. They have redesigned everything. They projected this Good Kitchen as a restaurant. Okay, it's not a kind of a government sponsored meal. It's a restaurant. Okay. And then the cooks and the people out there in the kitchen are chefs, right? And the menu is redesigned in such a way that it is very colorfully a drafted one with photos of the menu and what are the ingredients. Just like if you go to any high-end restaurant, what would you see? You actually see some description, a detailed description of the menu that will make you mouth water. Right? I'm like, okay, let's order this. So the variety of the menu has changed, and they made sure that these elderly people are connected to the people in the kitchen. So they send a postcard thanking them for this preparing that delicious meal, and people in the kitchen are inspired. The people in the kitchen are inspired because they were actually getting this kind of a feedback from their end users. They make them happy. They are inspired to cook well, actually. So it all turned out the malnutrition has come down, people eating well went up, everybody is happy. How did this all happen? It all happened because of one single thing, that is empathy, right? Empathy. You actually design using the empathy, putting the end user in the center, and then you actually design those things. These are a couple of examples I wanted to give so that you understand the power of design thinking when you apply it properly, what kind of changes it can bring. So design thinking will help you not only with your product design, that can help you with experience design, okay, business model design, and strategy design. Right? I mean, if you really wanted to deploy the design thinking, people have a notion that it is only applicable in technology, it is only applicable in the product development. No, not really. You can actually apply the design thinking to the service industry. Even you can apply design thinking to the customer experience, user experience, and also you can apply design thinking to solve some wicked problems. Okay, wicked problems are the term that is coined in such a way that there is no straightforward solution to it. You can only minimize the impact of a wicked problem. Okay, like poverty, healthcare system, right? All these things, you can reduce the impact of the wicked problem. There is no silver bullet solution for some of those problems, right? Let me have a look at this thing. Why design thinking? These are the design-centric companies on the left side: Apple, Coca-Cola, and IBM, Intuit, Nike, Procter & Gamble, SAP, Starbucks, right? If you look at it, consistently they beat the S&P 500 by twice, which means that if you have invested $100, probably $10,000 in the S&P 500 index, that would have grown to somewhere around maybe 16,000. But whereas if you had invested a similar kind of a money in these design-centric companies, it would have given you somewhere around more than that, right? Twice as much as what S&P has delivered, which is around close to 40K, which means that 4 times, right? So what I'm trying to say is that design-centric companies are actually delivering much return to the investors. Okay, so it is something making good money for those people who are investing in the design-centric organizations. It is deeply rooted on the Amazon calls it as a customer obsession, right? A customer obsession. So completely obsessed with the customer. Okay, so this is how the design thinking. My intention so far has been to convince you to appreciate the power of design thinking and innovation in the current world, why you should pay attention to it. And these 2 things are essential if you really want to become an entrepreneur, okay? Because it gives you the framework to innovate and become a good entrepreneur, okay? So I think Srini sir might agree to this thing, that design thinking is to innovation what Six Sigma is to quality. See, because he's a black beltist and he's the quality guru, I call him. Probably the way in the quality is that to reduce the variance, right? Fundamentally the entire effort is to reduce the variance. But whereas design thinking, on the other way around, increase the options. So that is how it differs from it. Because if you know your problem well, then probably you will define or devise a solution better for it. So one of the things I also wanted to let you guys know is that whenever you see or hear any problem, don't jump directly into the solution. Okay, so there is something called problem space and there is something called solution space. Okay, delve into the solution problem phase and see, are we actually solving the right problem? That's very, very important. Instead of jumping into the solution, you actually dwell yourself into the problem finding area where you actually brainstorm it and then put using the empathy and interviewing techniques and see, are we actually solving the right problem is the most important question in design thinking, rather than directly say you define the problem, here are the options 1, 2, 3, and then you choose one of those, you are done. It's not that. It's not that simple, because if it is that simple, you are not actually doing design thinking. Okay, design thinking means, are you creating enough options? Are you creating enough options to actually come up with a better problems to solve? So it's something like this. Solving the right problem is more important than actually the solution there. Okay, so the blending of this design thinking and product design is that whenever you see this guy, business thinking person, is a left-brained guy, rational, fixed, completely analytical, analysis driven, is a typical bar charts and Excel person in a typical corporate sector. You see the left-hand business thinking, and the right-hand person you see is a kind of a creative person, quite intuitive, right? They are open, they are experimenting, they're like quite chaotic, like they are it's you can't comprehend sometimes, because the way the creative thinking goes is like what is not already there they will be thinking, but for this business thinking guy, it will be little uncomfortable to think this way, frankly speaking, because he wanted some stability and he wanted some sort of a end result. What is my end result look like? But this person, how might we design something? What if kind of a questions this person will ask, because they are actually operating in the zone of creativity. So where design thinking comes in is blend these two thinkings together and synthesize it, okay? Because you can't be completely on this right brain thinking and get chaotic, okay? At the same time, you can't be so deterministic that your solution has to be this way. You need to think from both the angles and also blend it. So that is where the design thinking comes. The analysis and synthesis, it blends nicely together and gives you a nice framework on how do you go about innovation, right? I hope this picture gives some little clarity on that. And there is a Gartner chart I would like to show here. There is something called design thinking, lean startup, and agile. This particular image nicely blends it in the way that if it is a customer problem, you are actually defining and iterating. There is a concept called prototyping. At this prototyping, you create an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, or nowadays we also hear MMP, minimum marketable product, right? So so you create a prototype, and here comes the build, learn, measure, right? Build, learn, measure. So you build it, you learn from it, you measure it. And if something is really working out, then you proceed further and you build it using the agile methodologies. So these are three big domains, if I may call it, frankly speaking, blending nicely together for an end result. Okay, I'm not sure if it is making sense. You have any questions, David? I see David has some point of view on this. No, you are not audible.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a question. Oh,
yes.
No, I didn't have a question. But
okay.
I wanted to. In my brain, you must be reading my mind because I wanted to show you something, but I didn't have a question on what you had.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to give me 2 minutes, I will show you something.
Sure, I'll be done in another few minutes, and I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah.
Okay?
I don't want to slow you down. Okay.
No. That's fine. So the problem with the traditional model of innovation is a stage-based approach. Basically, you actually have a typical phase, discovery phase, and then go to the development phase. You go to the testing phase, you launch it, and then post-launch. This is what happens. It is a linear process, pretty linear process, frankly speaking. Time to market and all those things. So it has got a lot of problems with it. The reason being, if you really have something here, then you need to go back and then do the stuff. And this entire process itself is a pretty lengthy thing. So the one of the things about design thinking is that I wanted you guys to understand is that quickly come up with a prototype, put right in front of the customers, and observe how exactly they are dealing with it. Take the inputs from it, and then again iterate it. Rather than multi-month, for example, don't plan something for 6 months. Come up with a quick prototype within a month. Put it right in front of the customer, even if it means that it is a paper-based prototype. I don't really care, frankly speaking. Paper-based prototype is also fine. In fact, the prototypes are never meant to be fully functional. Okay, so you get the feedback, and then you can actually synthesize those learnings, and then again iterate it. Okay, so how does this entire thinking, the design thinking, looks like? It's a kind of a problem space, as I said. You understand using the empathy, you define the actual problem. So there is something called, this is typically in design thinking, we call it as double diamond, okay? Like basically you diverge means what? Create more options, and converge means make more options, okay? Make options, create options, and choose options. So this is like understanding it, defining it, and then solution space, what happens is you ideate using brainstorming, and then come up with a prototype, run the prototype with the customer, test it, and get the feedback. This is how the overall process looks like. Okay. And design thinking is a non-linear process. So there is a, as per D School, Stanford D School, we have 5-phase approach. Of course, some of not necessary that you need to follow one particular framework. The overall process should look similar. Some IDEO has 6, I believe, actually phase. So empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Okay. In the empathize and the define phase, it is a problem finding, and ideate, prototype, and test basically is a solution space. Okay. So this is the Stanford D School thinking process. In the empathy phase, what you do, you conduct the interviews, non-judgmental, seek to understand, and then define. You define the personas of your users, and then see what are their pains and gains. And here it comes up with the empathy map. Okay, we create an empathy map here, and then actually you ideate. Come up with the ideation, like how might we design this particular thing for so and so people. All those ideation will happen, and then come up with a prototype. Okay, a quick prototype that you can put right in front of your users and ask them to provide you the feedback. The testing is the second phase of your empathy, frankly speaking. Okay, so how do you practice empathy? You immerse yourself in the user, observe it, engage. Okay, this is how you practice empathy. So we do have a design thinking workshop that I wanted to conduct in person, actually, because where we define a design challenge, and then actually go for this thing, come out with a solution. So in the immersion, sometimes you remember in the olden days of India also, Raja Maharaja used to go to the regular public as the regular civilians, just to understand how their kingdom is doing. It's a kind of a Jordan's king. He disguised himself into a commoner and then went to his public places and then observe how exactly his officers are doing. So that's a kind of an immersion, right? This is a kind of a empathy map canvas where in the workshop that we are going to conduct, we are going to see populate this map, like what your user sees, what they say, what they hear, what they do, and then what are their pains and what are their gains. Okay. So these are the empathy map canvas thing. So pretty much I'm actually done with my presentation, frankly speaking. Some of the common principles of design thinking is people-centric, cross-disciplinary, and collaborative. It's a holistic and integrative, flexibility and comfort with ambiguity. The fourth point, I really like it because comfortable with ambiguity. Okay, you should be comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity in the design thinking. So that's the reason design thinking looks very easy and it's very hard to do. The reason being we are so used to our regular ways of thinking pattern, right? So the bottom line is it makes you the money, it gives you the innovative solutions. So design thinking is a better investment. That's pretty much it from my side. And I'm done and I'm open to the questions. And Dave, you want to share something? You said you are planning to share something.
Well, let me, you guys can hear me. Let me show you something just super quick. I guess I have to share my screen, correct?
Yeah, so somebody has to make you as a
wait a minute, I might be able to do it myself. Let me try. Hold on. Let's see if this works.
Sure.
Do you guys see
sir,
my
if you
screen?
Srinivas garu, if you stop sharing your screen, David sir will be able to share his screen.
Okay. I stopped sharing my screen. Excellent. Now we are able to see.
Do you see my screen? Okay. So
Right.
this is one slide I want to show you. And basically what I just want to illustrate that I think is, we have a lot of overlapping principles and common principles that you're teaching and I teach as well. I teach a process called systematic innovation. You guys do see my screen, correct? I'm going to pull up a couple of things. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. So in this, there is a few steps, and I'm not going to go into great detail here, but what I want to show you is, I'll just explain these steps super quick. You have a project plan, and then you spend a lot of time understanding your customers. This is where the empathy comes in. And then you go further deep to understand the situation. You know, there's where your journey maps might come in, and more detailed understanding of customer needs. There's tools for each one of these steps, and then you come up with ideas. You come up with new ideas, and then you evaluate ideas, which is step 5, and then you design and test and implement those, and then you market them. Now, what I wanted to show you, and there's a lot to this, but the design thinking steps that you just talked about, they overlap quite a bit here. So I've created this, a couple of years ago, but here's your design thinking, the steps that you just mentioned. The empathize, that we do a lot of that in step 1. Empathize, and you mentioned real important, defining the problem. It's very important to define the problem. That would happen in this step, in our process, which is overlapping with the design thinking process. And then down here is ideation, where you come up with ideas, and then over here, prototype and testing. But the thing that I want to show you guys is that within each one of these steps, and you probably have it as well in your design thinking courses, within each one of these steps, there's a whole bunch of tools and best practices. So to understand customers, there's a bunch of methods that we can use to get at understanding our customers really well. Painstorming and Kano model and customer visits and interviews and jobs to be done thinking and quality function deployment and house of quality and all those things. Yeah, QFD, exactly. So that's in step 1. And then in step 2, analyzing the situation, there are models that you can build, journey maps and flow charts to show what the customer is doing. There's a lot of tools that we use in step 2. In step 3 or 4 is to generate ideas. This is what's fascinating. There's a whole bunch of tools to help you think laterally. You mentioned before, lateral thinking is important. And so there's a whole bunch of different tools that can help you think laterally. And as a matter of fact, there's so many of them. We had to create a step 3, and I can't really explain this quickly, but this is a way of deciding what the best tool to use, depending on your specific situation. I can zoom in here real quick, zoom in on that chart. But depending on what situation you're trying to address, are you trying to get rid of complexity and cost? Are you trying to solve a problem? Are you trying to come up with just a new feature? And depending on what you're trying to do, that'll decide what tool to use. And this is actually a matrix that shows you the best tool to use. So the way this works is if I want to reduce cost, I go across and I find the dark cells, which are the best innovation tools to help you get rid of cost. If you're trying to solve problems, there's different tools. So this is probably confusing when you look at it the first time.
No, I think that makes sense because, Dev, I completely agree with you. The reason being, there are different, innovation is a very broad term, right? I mean, pretty umbrella term kind of a thing. But if you really want to do a specificity, if you may call it, this tool is a wonderful tool because what tools you are going to deploy based on your requirement is what you are saying. Excellent.
Yes,
Excellent.
Pick the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that happens in this step here. There's tools there. There's tools for idea generation, like I mentioned. There's tools for evaluating different concepts, Pew and Ease Impact Matrix and 9box. There's a bunch of different tools. And designing and engineering it, there's tools that engineers use to help design DOEs and FMEAs and Taguchi methods and things of that nature, and then even marketing tools. So there's a ton of overlapping with what you're talking about in design thinking, and I believe there's some things that you can teach us for sure on different ways to do design thinking, and then there's some things that we can teach you on how to think laterally better. Lots of different tools and methods, trees, that they're inventive problems, structured inventive thinking, and a whole bunch more. So that's where I started, is when I learned about these different methods. So I just wanted to show you this, just to show you.
No. This is great. This is great. This is really great. Actually, I mean, I'm glad actually I'm seeing this because this gives another way of looking at how innovation at a scale, if you may call it, innovation at scale, right? In the sense like if you are indulging into a continuous innovation cycle, this framework absolutely
Yes.
is going to be useful, because you are in your, it's a kind of a conveyor belt of innovation, right? So you, and day in, day
Yes.
out, you are, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dave, for
Sir, I
sharing
have a
this.
question.
Yeah.
I'm Shankar, sir. I'm Dr. Shankar from Vigyan. I have a question, sir,
Sure.
to David Garu.
Sure.
See, this QFD and FMEA, these tools, do we apply just before production, or do we apply in the beginning of the design process itself? Means because in of my previous industry work, I used this QFD and FMEA, but that too just before sending the final design to production, we used them. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, you kind of use them in more than one place, but the QFD, to start with that one, QFD is really a tool to really get at understanding customer needs and then translate those into metrics. That's this little house of quality. It's a kind of a great way to get at understanding and agreeing upon what the needs are. That's what this little room, if I can, let's see if I can zoom in here. Oh, I can't zoom in. But understand the needs and translate those to things that you can act upon. It's bringing clarity to the needs, which is what empathizing is all about.
Exactly.
Focusing on your customers' needs, but going beyond just focusing on what they want, figuring out how do I measure and control that. That's a real important thing. You know, you've heard the saying, if you can't measure something, you can't control it. So we need to measure things. House of Quality does that. It should be done in the beginning. FMEA really doesn't fit in here really well. It should be done in the later phases. I usually do FMEA further up in evaluating concepts, because, you know, FMEA is a tool to try to understand where your system might fail. You know, so you try to understand what are all the functions that the system has to do, and then how could this possibly fail, and what do we have in place to find those failures and, you know, prevent them from happening. So I would look at FMEA as really later in the process, QFD definitely early in the process, because that's going to help you empathize and understand your customer needs. Whereas FMEA is usually a tool later to design in reliability, to make sure that you're covering all your bases.
Let me add, sorry to interrupt, let me add, I agree with you, David. And to Shankar ji, for your question, FMEA is a two FMEAs, design FMEA, process FMEA. Design FMEA means design failure mode effect analysis. D for design. That means you need to have a design to start with. So QFD is upfront because you're trying to understand the customer needs and wants, right? Quality function deployment. Like you understand the customer, translating those customer needs into engineering requirements, product requirements, service requirements. And the FMEA is a broad term, but if you divide it to design FMEA, which is you need to have a design to start with. Process FMEA, which is for manufacturing guys, once you complete the design, you're handing it over to manufacturing guys, then you use process FMEA.
Great. So, Srini, I think we went offline.
Yeah.
We are offline right now. They're not able to hear us. I just got a
really?
call. So I just So I just got a call. So great. When did
we lose them?
I don't know.
You know, I was watching the cameras, and we lost the classroom at least 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Really?
Okay. So
they didn't hear any of this.
Maybe I think so. So I'm glad actually somebody called me and telling, otherwise we would be talking like this. So
right.
but
we are so much into it. So we all have the same passion. That's why we didn't even realize it.
No. But it doesn't matter, because I got that nuggets of wisdom what I am seeking for. Thank you so much for sharing those two things. Actually, no doubt about it. And I'm looking forward to closely work with you guys down the line in the way that we can do conduct some workshops and do some more such sessions. Right. So exactly that.
And to David's point, whatever he's showing some tools, I applied it to my teams, and we
Okay.
come up with a great designs. And as you
Great.
know, David and
Great.
Srini
Sure.
and my friend's son is still there, Deras. So we applied these QFD, house of quality,
Correct.
customer requirements, surveys, and then come up with a engineering requirements, metrics, then use the brainstorming tools, other tools to come up with ideas. Several tools we use, including TRIZ, and then come up with ideas, then synthesize the ideas using a Pew matrix.
Yeah.
Then we optimized it. Then we did the experiments. So all 9 years we done,
Right.
6 years, whatever, and then come up with a real product. So we have examples for that.
Exactly. And I think Dave and Srini, you might agree. It's better to do these things in a workshop set of environment
Yes.
where we make people do things and then realize and learn rather than
Yes.
so because
Yeah.
the very nature of this particular concepts is that you do, you learn from that.
Yes.
Rather than you see and learn. It is the design thinking comes with the concept that instead of learning upfront everything and doing it right, you do something and learn from it, do something, learn from it, right? That kind
Yes.
of experimental design thinking, right? So that is what
Yes.
and I hope this session would have given some insight into what the innovation is, how
Yeah,
design
Shankar,
thinking is,
by the way, Shankar, Professor
is back,
Shankar
is back.
joined.
Yeah. So I'm just concluding remarks is that I hope this particular session would have given our target audience, the students, the importance of innovation and the importance of design thinking and how they can benefit out of it. And this is what it is. So thank you so much, Shankar and Rector sir, for giving me this opportunity. And I conclude my session here, and over to you, because I have my day job as well, so I need to catch up on that. Okay, so take care. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
Yeah, Shankar.
This is Shankar here, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Like we are having some network issues, and so we could not stay online in the end. I joined from my mobile. Sir,
Okay.
I really thank for the excellent session that you have delivered, Sir Srinivas Garu, and David Garu also for enlightening us on some of the design thinking process.
Yeah.
I always used to think like what is the role of this QFD and FMEA. I never had an actual thought of that. Why are we actually doing it? Now I
Yeah,
understood like why
you missed
my
our
employer in
conversation.
my previous company asked us to.
Yeah, you missed
Hello?
Shankar Garu. You missed our conversation.
Hello.
We thought you were online, but I was explaining that your question were answered, but you were not there. But I can explain you later or now.
Sure. Excellent.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Hello?
us? Yeah. Shankar, can you hear us?
They have some network issues.
Okay. Yeah, but you're right.
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm having some network issues, but thank you, sir, for the excellent session, Sir Srinivas Garu.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very
I
much.
actually had one question, which I think I will talk with you offline, sir.
Yeah, but
Sure.
Hello.
Shankar, Dr. Shankar, if you want, David can present whenever there is opportunity about his systematic innovation for your students, for your faculty.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will I have a session arranged, sir. The cycle, the way that the systematic innovation is presented, that's quite good, sir. I actually like to have a session for my students also. Some of my students also requested.
Yes.
The same.
And then I can, after David done, next session, I can do the applied whatever just Srinivas and David is going to present next session. I applied those, and then I have a real examples of whatever you have, all the questions, like applying QFD, FMEAs, and they applied all these principles, some of the principles, not all, some of the principles, creating ideas, designs, and then optimized it, designed it, and bring to the real world, applied in our vehicle, and then we applied for patents. We made a $65 million profit on the one invention.
Okay, sir. That's great.
Yeah. So
Hello.
yeah.
I'll do it, sir. I'll get some session. I'll get sessions arranged, sir. I think will be very much interested to hear how you people did it, and also your presentations on that.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello?
Thank you, Srinivas.
All right, thanks, guys. Good talking to you. And Srini, we'll talk again. I'm going to be
Sure.
back in town in about a week.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
then we can collaborate. You, me, and Srinivas can collaborate, and we
Yeah.
can go further.
Sure, sounds good.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Bye. Good night to
Thanks,
you guys.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Night, good morning.
Thank you all, sir.
Yeah.